District monthly board meeting to order for the month of February. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has been.
Thank you. Before we go on, I'd like to say that currently we have Dr. Wermuth is in his office. He is not able to attend tonight. And I have Kathy and Lucas both on the internet, on virtually, so they'll be adding their comments from there. With that, if we could all rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We all have new board stuff on our computers tonight, so as we go through this, we'll take a little bit of time, and hopefully I won't screw up too much tonight. So at this time, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda, to adopt the agenda? Joanne? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeff? Motion made for Joanne, second by Jeff, to adopt the agenda as printed. Discussion. Hearing none. We'll start this vote with Andy.
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Lennox is excused for the night. Kathy.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. It passes 8-0. We're going to hold on for a second until Stacy's ready. She's helping Kent at the moment with some of our new technology. I don't believe there is any public comments. And our next thing will be school nurse, if you'd like to step up and wait till Stacy and Kent are ready. Go ahead, Laura. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. So Dr. Tom wanted me to present some COVID data to you all, just so you can kind of get a sense of where we have been since the beginning of the year and what we currently have going on. So I put together some numbers. I had put this together on Friday, and it's already changed some. We had an additional 4 cases over the weekend and today. So currently in the district, we have just over 6.6% of our total population having a case of COVID, being diagnosed with a positive COVID case. Those are broken down over each school building. There's AFE, middle school, high school, the administrative building, and then shared staff. That would be like myself and the sites that kind of rotate through the different buildings. So it kind of breaks down where our cases have been at, and that's total since the beginning of the school year. And then total quarantine is currently who Health and Human Services has quarantined in total of our school population, and this includes staff and students. And on Friday there were 76 quarantined, and today there is 65, excuse me. AFE has a total of 13 classrooms that have been quarantined since the start of school. 3 of those classrooms have been quarantined twice. The entire elementary school has had a total of 4 NTI days, so I think they are doing phenomenal. The middle school has had a total of 15 classrooms quarantined since the start of school. 2 of those classrooms have been quarantined twice, and they've had a total of 16 NTI days. And when I'm talking NTI days, I'm talking the entire school. not talking individual classrooms. The high school has had a total of 11 classrooms quarantined since the start of school, and the entire high school has had a total of 20 NTI days. I also wanted to mention that as of today, the quarantines that I mentioned don't specifically talk about the amount of absences we have related to COVID, because there are students out related to COVID-like illnesses that have not been diagnosed or quarantined at this time. Today at AFE, we had a total of 11 students. At the middle school, we had 13, and at the high school, we had 15. So we're doing pretty good, actually. And then I just wanted to give a quick update on the vaccines. Unfortunately, they're kind of on hold right now. Initially, we thought we were going to be able to roll them out a bit quicker than we were able to. But then the state of Wisconsin, they have the eligibility criteria, and the 65 plus age group moved into 1A. They were initially in 1B with the educators. They moved up into 1A, so they pushed us out. So the county has to vaccinate all of the 65 plus group first, and they are having a very difficult time securing enough vaccines even for that population. And that is, the hospital is also experiencing that same shortage. The state of Wisconsin is actually only getting, on average every week, 70,000 vaccines. So that's just not enough for everybody to go around. However, I have encouraged those, I have identified those that would like to get the vaccines, and they've been educated about why we're waiting at this time. And then anybody that is on that list at 65 plus has been encouraged to go seek the healthcare clinics in the community or call their healthcare providers. So we do have a handful of staff in our district that are immunized, but I would love to see a lot more. Questions?
What percentage of our staff have shown an interest in getting that? Do you have that type of number?
I don't know the percentage, but we had 160, and that includes teachers, administrators, substitute teachers, coaches, bus drivers. Yes, I think that's it. So I thought I liked that number. I would like a few more, but I did like that number.
Other questions, board members?
So how many staff have chosen not to express an interest in it? Do you have that number?
No, I don't have that number for you.
Kathy, did you hear that? No, she does not have that number.
I think roughly we have 250-ish employees. I could be wrong. So I would say about 100 have opted not to get it.
Okay.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Board of Education reports. Anyone? Moving on. AFE.
Good evening. Just a little update on what we have going on. So last week, we started to do some benchmark testing of our students who are virtual, so our Edmonton Calvert. Students have been actually coming into the building to get tested. Some still have chosen to get tested online. We do have a link that they can take it at home. And due to the snow day on Thursday, we had to push a couple of our kids to this week. So we're hoping by the end of this week to have all of our virtual kids tested and added to our benchmark data for a board report for next month. Also, our staff surveyed families to see how they thought NTI was going or if there's anything that we needed. So for the grades, pre-K through 4th grade, we had 125 responses. Each grade asked somewhat similar yet different questions based on their need. Their grade levels are currently, and we'll continue to review that information to make NTI more successful if we have to go that way. Here were a couple things that the family said we need to work on. A couple was to take a few more breaks so the kids could get up and move a little bit. A little more flexible times, it was from 9 to 10, so they were pretty strict times that teachers going to be on giving lessons. Some families wish it was a little more flexible. A time for show and share, because kids want to say hi to each other and they like to take their cameras around their houses and show them everything going on. So maybe scheduling a time for the classrooms to do that. Another parent said it would be nice if all the students could be muted, because sometimes when everybody's trying to talk at once, it was very overwhelming. They want to make sure that our videos and mics work prior to going to NTI, so making sure we're checking the devices. And somebody else suggested maybe help sheets for when the child doesn't understand something, that the parents have something to go to support them. Some positive comments, they thought we were doing well. One person said, this was a great experience for my child, and teachers are way more patient than I could ever imagine to be. My child was still able to work and not get behind in the schoolwork. You could tell that my child's teacher worked with the students on how to navigate logging into Seesaw, Zoom, SuperKids, Google, all of that, because my child could be independent. One parent liked the list of daily work that their child had to complete. Students know what was expected. There were rules and expectations were very clear. My child felt very supported, and the teacher was always available. So those are just a few things to work on and a few comments. And again, teachers are going to continue to look through that data to make things a little bit better next time.
You said 125 responded, or
Yep.
27?
125, yep.
What is that percentage-wise?
We have about 400 people in our 400 students. So sometimes,
25%?
yeah. I have a breakdown per grade level. They're all about 20, 25. We would have liked more. They did send it out a few times, but classroom or grade levels seem to be happy with the responses they got. They got more than what they thought they were going to get.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, middle school. I don't think they have anything tonight, so we'll go right to the. Somebody said so.
No, Tom.
And high school. Mr. Storm.
Good afternoon, evening. A couple quick things from the high school. We're planning our ACT for March 23rd. Presents some issues with students that are virtual. However, they have to be in the building to take the ACT test per the ACT rules. So we're sending information to our virtual parents that way. We're looking to have only juniors in the building on that day and divide them up into small classes on their Chromebooks with a 1 to 5 or 4 ratio with the teacher as the student in that classroom. So, of course, all spread out. Another thing we have is we had 2 wrestlers from the high school make the state tournament this weekend, the state tournament that we're holding here. Jordan Delata and Anthony Kujawa both made that. They cut the field down this year, so it was nice to see those guys get in there. And we will be hosting the Division II wrestling this weekend. Our athletic director, Sam Rupp's been working really hard at that, fielded quite a few questions and emails, and everybody wanted to get in, working with the WIAA and other schools that are also hosting to get that. I think that's great for our school, and will help to, that's actually going to be filmed. The WIAA is going to have the championship, the finals matches on television that night, so they'll get our gym out there and our hosting. The last thing is I just continue to want to thank our teachers. They're working really hard. At any minute you could be quarantined and have to go non-traditional, just like all our teachers are. But I think just that the stress of being able to balance tomorrow, we might not be here. Do I hold this, something that's good for NTI and good for virtual? How long do I hold it before I have to give this lesson? And then the next day, first day virtual, you just might not have a very good virtual lesson, something that you need to be face-to-face for. So I think all the teachers throughout the district are doing really well to balance that stress and continue to keep kids in the building.
I guess this is coming from me and Jeff. Is there a way we could get a poster with what our virtual site is for sign up or enrollment, because we're always trying to get some advertisement out there to get more kids enrolled in our thing. You know, put it in a place in the gym, seeing that the WIA is going to televise this statewide. Is it possible we could do something like that?
Yeah, I can, something I can definitely talk to Sam and Kevin in regards to, just to get, hopefully that we can attract some of those people that are looking to come.
You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Just like they have NBA games or something,
Right.
just have something up there. I mean, if it gets one student, it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Technically, we can't take it.
What?
We have Dr. Wormuth and I have a meeting this week. This
Can't
coming
hear
week.
him.
Yes.
Oh, would you speak in the microphone? Up a little bit.
Dr. Wormuth and I have a meeting scheduled with our legislatures in regards to that. Theoretically, because they would reside outside of the district, the current rules under DPI will not allow us to take those students. They have to actually live within the boundaries of our regular school district. The biggest issue is recently a case was heard this spring. Parochial schools can do it across the whole state. So we're going to have the discussion why can't regular school districts without being a charter have that same privilege?
Yeah, RV8 does it statewide, but they do it because they're a charter.
Correct. That's the catch-22. So as far as advertising, while I appreciate the plug, we can't do anything yet, but hopefully our legislators will listen to us and react accordingly to allow us to flourish in that venue.
So, couldn't we put it up and ask for forgiveness? I'm just, I don't know. Yeah. Tom, would you like to weigh in here, Tom?
I couldn't hear what the last question was. I could hear Mr. Presley, but I couldn't hear the last question.
Kevin wanted to know if we could just do it and apologize later.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't hear you.
Sounds like a yes to me.
So you and Jeff are going to have a meeting here, hopefully get some legislation passed?
At least make our big senators aware of the issue, because right now it really is a disadvantage to school districts like ours, and an advantage to school districts that have been in the business for a while.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question for
Oh, go
Mr.
ahead.
Moore. How did parent-teacher conferences go?
Parent-teacher conferences were right around 100 when Kevin and I did that, which doesn't include emails and calls to teachers. Where our numbers were average for us the second time around, but lower than we'd like with the availability to zoom in. I don't know exactly what went into that. Maybe the snow, maybe the weather, maybe the technology that people weren't wanting to do, but they were pretty average for us the second time around, about 30%.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask that question to AFE as well.
Go ahead. She's had this number here, so you could ask her that question. Mrs. Thorne, if you have to go crowd control, you can.
So we had a lot of our teachers, because of the snow day, postpone parent-teacher conferences. AFE had another day scheduled already for February 25th, so a lot of my teachers moved it to that. Although Mr. David said that he had 100% attendance, so go snow day because no one else wanted to go outside, so he had everybody attend. So we'll see maybe more after the 25th, but a lot of my teachers moved it to that date.
Jeff?
I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Storman's report too on the wrestling team. Congratulations to them for winning the conference. We were conference champs. It's been a while. The kids worked hard, so did the coaches to earn that position, even under COVID circumstances. It was somewhat normal, and we were well represented at regionals too. We had 5 kids there. So they had an awesome year. I'm very proud of both the staff, coaches, and the kids.
Thank you. Moving on, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and our current cameraman. Make sure you put that on you now.
All right, multitasking. Good evening. I wanted to just hit on a couple of the current activities that Buildings and Grounds has going on. As far as working with Ronnie, we're trying to boost the capital improvement plan and try to get some long-range planning going here. One item with this facility is the starting to receive proposals on trying to get upgrades on our water heaters. These are original with this building, except for this portion of the building, which runs separate. But they're 23 years old. They've reached their life expectancy. So we're reaching out to some contractors and trying to get some proposals on what that's going to look like here. I know we've been looking in the future here for a roof on this facility as well. It is also original, and the previous director had done quite a bit of work with the Garland Company. They did some pretty extensive research on all of our buildings, and I'm looking to utilize them here in trying to figure out a plan for what I hope to do is branch out the roofing contract multiple years instead of knocking that all out in 1 year, because it's an extensive cost. As far as the cost yet, that's still in the works, but we're going to start out with them on fixing some of our leaks at all the buildings as well. Another item that we're looking at here, I was just talking with Roxy on that, is the elementary gymnasium refinish. It's been quite a few years since that has occurred. Looking at some proposals on getting some cost estimates for that, hopefully projected into 2022, a sanding finish and restriping on that. Since I wasn't able to talk with you guys last month, just a little bit of a follow-up. The bipolar ionization has been installed on all the HVAC systems for all the buildings. We plan on doing another biodome spray application, which will be completed prior to the end of this month at all buildings and vehicles. We're working the CISA 10 inspection issues daily. We just completed a auction for a lot of the tools that were either non-compliant or our tech ed department here at the high school no longer needs. That's should be in the works here. Once we receive payment, we'll pass those funds back down to the tech ed department. We did receive $95 or so $100 for those 4 vehicles that we sold a couple months ago. Some of the inspections that have occurred recently to keep us compliant here. The elevator inspection over at the middle school is good to go. Last week we just completed the fine arts fire suppression here at this school. The system's good to go. Pressure relief valves, our boilers were kind of offset with a lot of the other boilers, so now that's on more of a continuous timeline for reinspection. We have an auto lift here at the high school that did not pass inspection. It's currently not in use, and it will not be in use until it passes inspection. Parts are ordered, and that's being worked through Midwest Lift currently. Other than that, we did have a bleacher inspection that happened at all the schools, and we're really fortunate to work that internally with receiving boards from Donna Olson's sister, which had purchased some old boards in the past, and we're utilizing the woods department to plane out those boards to the right length. They're going to refinish those, put a coat of poly on them, and repair 12 boards here at the gymnasium bleachers at the high school and a few over at the middle the school. So things are coming along here. Otherwise, besides that, the maintenance and the custodians continue to knock out dozens of staff work requests of various types. So.
Questions, Jeff?
Couple things. Given that we're under a new administration that likes green things, as far as the water heater in that, is that something that we're potentially looking at? I know it's been quite a few years since we've had tax credits, solar boilers and that. It was, the turnaround cost was a lot quicker with those credits. Is that something that would potentially that we'd be looking at, or is it a need that, in the next six months we got to look at doing it?
No, actually, working with Bob Goodhue on this, we haven't had really serious issues with the boilers here at the high school. Generally, commercial boilers 10 to 15 years, and you need to look at getting a replacement. We're at 23 years. Luckily, he hasn't had much issues except for a minor leak in one of the storage tanks a number of years ago. A lot of the contractors that I've been working with are wondering why we have so much storage. We got a significant amount of storage, and there's a lot of different options that may be out there with tankless water heaters, other energy efficiency that I'm going to definitely dig into before we decide to give you guys a potential bid on that. So, and if there's any grants, rebates that we can look into to save us some money, we'll definitely take advantage of it.
Go ahead.
My second question is the vehicle replacement. Are we looking at a long-term plan then? I know I asked you that the last time.
Yes. There's a couple of other vans that we're looking to sell. As far as getting on a timeline, it's kind of unknown to me at this point, for the fact that I don't really have a good idea yet until we get out of COVID on our current usage to see whether or not we're going to need to either add a couple vehicles or remain with the four less than what we had. But I definitely want to continue the long-range plan, so I'm not reactive on getting those vehicles replaced.
And last one, as far as roofs go, I'm a strong advocate for extended warranties and doing that warranty work to get more bang for our buck. While it may cost us a little more up front, in the long run, it saves you a lot of headaches.
Yeah, and this gentleman, Bill Snow, and eventually once we get a little bit closer, I'm going to bring him in. He's from Garland. He's aware of our current warranties that we have at AFE and some other piecework that we had done at the middle school. And if I can utilize any of those warranties to make these even water leak repairs coming in spring, we'll do that.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yep, go ahead, Ken.
I have two, actually. Was the Fine Arts Center also given the bipolar ionization?
Say that again?
The Bible is, they do ionization here, the bipolar for Fine Arts Center.
It has been installed on all the rooftop units and air handling units at all schools. That was done by JC.
Do people notice any difference with the bipolar ionization being installed?
I haven't heard anything, unless anybody else has, as far as cleaner air.
Stacy said it's colder.
Colder? Is there more air flowing that people notice?
We deal with the cooling issues on a daily basis on an individual level, but Bob Goodhue has brought up the percentage of outside air to further mitigate COVID. So I believe that's in the 10% range. We're bringing a little bit more in, so our cost savings probably aren't as good, but we're trying to make sure that we're keeping that air circulating.
I believe, if I can jump in, I believe the bipolar ionization is really designed to I can't remember if it's negatively or positively charged, but it attracts air particles that are in the air, which should reduce allergies and colds and things like that viruses that are in the air. So that was obviously one of the reasons why we elected to do that. And I couldn't hear all of Mr. Presley's comments, but if he was talking about the former energy exemption dollars that school districts could access with energy efficiency project, that was eliminated on one of the last days of Governor Walker's term in office. So that program no longer exists.
No, it's actually different programs offered by the federal government. This has been
Okay.
quite a few years ago.
Okay. I'm sorry I couldn't hear everything that you said, Mr. Presley. I apologize.
Any other questions for Sean?
I just have one. Coaching at the middle school, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the floor there. So I was just going to ask if that gym floor was going to be under consideration for refinishing at all.
We do have plans of another coat on there this summer. As far as refinishing, I believe that it needs it. Where we're at with the future of the middle school is kind of unknown, but I don't have that on the plan right now as far as a resand and paint.
And I can respond to that just a little bit. Until we get the water issues that are right outside of the front door to the gym resolved, we're going to have to just wait on refinishing that floor.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
District Administrator report.
Just a few quick things that have already been mentioned. We are hosting the state wrestling tournament Division II this weekend, and I want to recognize Mr. Rugg, Mrs. Ginter, Mr. Storman, Mr. Moore, our high school administrators who have been putting a lot of time in trying to ensure that that event not only runs smoothly, but is also successful at mitigating any kind of spread of the COVID virus. So they've done an excellent job of that. I also wanted to mention that Mr. Presley and I are meeting with Senators Teston and Senator Ballwig later this week. We really have two things on the agenda. One is the charter school issue related to virtual options. And then the second is just looking at our financial projection and making them aware of what a financial projection looks like for a rural school district with declining enrollment. I have had conversations with both of those individuals independently about our financial situation in the past, and look forward to having that conversation later this week. Also, we're holding our second of 4 scheduled community meetings next Monday night. We're going to start talking about what 21st century learning environments look like, and then we'll have the opportunity to tour the high school. And Mr. Storm, Mr. Moore, and Mrs. McManus and I are discussing what that will look like tomorrow morning. So that meeting's coming up. And I also wanted to review, as the temperature continues to dip, kind of our thresholds for temperature-related school closure. And that can be found in policy 8220.01. And our thresholds for the ambient temperature, so the actual temperature is -20, and our threshold for wind chill is -40. So as we look at our temperatures, particularly tomorrow morning and Thursday morning, we'll be having conversations about the safety of our students as we're transporting them to and from school. And then the final thing, there's a link on your agenda to the second of 3 reports that have been finished by the University Alliance grant program that the community has been involved in. And in this particular study, the gentleman from the university surveyed teachers that have been in our mentoring program, so relatively new to our district. If you open up the document that's attached, you'll notice the first slide. And it appears the Adams Friendship Area School District maybe had a little bit higher turnover than normal until we start approaching 2014. and beyond, we know that we had what I would consider, I don't know if it's statistically significant, but certainly significant teacher turnover. And you see the numbers between all the rural school districts in Wisconsin, the entire state of Wisconsin, and then you see where Adams Friendship is hovering over the other two markers on that particular graph. And that extended both in the summer, it ends in 2017, but also in the summer of 2018 and 2019, we experienced really high turnover compared to the state and all rural districts. So anyway, he surveyed teachers that had been involved in our mentoring program. There were 20 respondents, and there were some things that were positive in that survey about our district. Administrative support, personal work achievement, working conditions, relationships with coworkers, were all quite influential with job satisfaction. While job stressors, accountability issues, challenges with students, and just our general location were factors that didn't necessarily help with our retention efforts. So those are things that we've been talking about with our staff and administratively, and trying to influence as we move over time. And one of the things that continues to show up, he did some interviews with teachers as well. One of the issues that continues to show up when we talk about our community with the Economic Development Group, others in the community, is housing, and trying to work with other organizations and agencies to create more attractive housing, particularly for our younger teachers, which has been a challenge over the last 4 or 5, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's what I wanted to highlight this evening. Thank you.
Can I just?
Hang on 1 second, Ken, first.
What time is that meeting next month?
What time is that meeting next Monday, Tom?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 o'clock. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kathy, your turn.
Okay, Tom, are you going to meet with Representative Dahlman as well?
I have reached out to both Representative Dahlman and Representative Krug at the same time. I reached out to the 2 senators, and I have not received a response from them. Not even an acknowledgement that they received my email.
Okay, I'm on Dahlman's email and his newsletter, and I made a comment, and I did get a remark back from his administrative assistant that asked for my name and my phone number, because she said that Representative Dahlman would like to make personal phone calls to all the people in his district. So I might just pass along that lady's name, because she did contact me personally.
I would appreciate just a response to an email.
Yes.
That would be great.
Second of all, how many people showed up at your community meeting?
Oh, it was a little disappointing. We probably had 30 or so people there. I think Stacy has a list, and the vast majority, 2/3 of the 30 were school personnel or had a connection to the school district. So 10 disconnected community members.
I will say, though, from talking to people in the community, a lot of people have heard about that meeting and have went and watched it either online or talked to somebody who was at that meeting, and it has created quite a conversation within the community. So I hope that continues.
At the first meeting, we focused on our declining enrollment and our financial projection and how those two are intertwined. So it was a really good conversation to provide some background information to help frame a conversation about what our district should look like as we think about the next 20 years, which is one of my goals. I want to set this district up so it can be both instructionally successful and fiscally successful for another generation of students.
My third question is, when you talked about housing, are we considering any of that targeted housing incentives?
I'm not familiar with exactly what you're referring to. Is that a governmental program, or is that?
Well, under policy suggestions, they were talking about the Mississippi Department of Education that actually subsidized staff towards forgivable loans towards the purchase of a home if they would stay a certain amount of years.
And then, that's something that we've talked about internally, providing some kind of incentive for people to live within our school district. But in order to attract people to live within our school district, generally our less senior, more recent teachers are looking for more attractive rental property to begin with. And that seems to be in scarce supply in our community right now.
Okay, thank you.
It's interesting. The township of Rome just was working with a developer and built an apartment complex there. And the apartment complex is filled, and I believe Mr. Pease was at the same meeting I was. And the majority of those residents are senior citizens and are parents of people that already live in our community. So again, we're not attracting, we're not necessarily building in housing for young people, and we're not attracting people of traditional child-bearing age into our community, which doesn't necessarily help the school district.
However, the good point about that is he's now contracted to build more right away. So maybe we will get some out of there, but like he said, the first round has been basically purchased by parents of people already.
Were those the apartment complexes over by the splash pad?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. They're very nice looking.
Yes. Any other questions for Tom? Hearing none, we'll move on. Consideration of adjournment to closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Consideration of adjournment to closed session under section 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data on a public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, to wit, contracts issued in consent agenda, employee resignations, and terms of resignation. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Lucas.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Mandy.
Yes.
And my vote is yes, passes 8-0. It shouldn't take too long. Sean, if you'd open up the room on the other side of the weight room. Oh, you got it? Okay. We're going to close. Being back to open session. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. I'll second that.
Motion by Ken and second by Jim to approve the consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, there is January bills, December meeting minutes, and the hiring of Carla Atkins for after-school paraprofessional at AFAS. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll start this vote with Jeff.
Yes.
Joanne.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Mandy.
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
And my vote is yes, it passes 8-0. Number 5, resignations. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the resignation and the terms of the resignation.
I second.
Kathy? And Andy. by Mandy to recommend that Aaron Hefty acceptance of resignation of a teacher in terms of the resignation. Discussion. We'll start this one with Joanne.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
Yes. Jeff.
No.
My vote is yes. Passes 7-1. Policy Committee. Policy Committee met before tonight's meeting at 5:30 in the Little Theater, and we did all first readings, and I'll read those first readings into the record, so next month there'll be second readings. And we'll start with 2261.03 District and School Report Card, 2271.01 Start College Now Program, 3122.01 Drug-Free Workplace, 4122.01 Drug-Free Workplace, 3125 Wisconsin Quality Education Initiative, 3340 Grievance Procedure, 4340 Grievance Procedure, 3410.01 Compensation for Part-Time Staff, 4410.01 Compensation for Part-Time Staff, 3419.02 Privacy Protections for Fully Insured Group Health Plans, 2219.2 Privacy Protection for Fully Insured Group Health Plans, 3430 Leaves of Absence, 4430 Leaves of Absence, 3431 Employee Leaves, 4431 Employee Leaves, 3230 Conflict of Interest, 4230 Conflict of Interest, 5113 Open Enrollment Program Interdistrict, 5200.01 Full-Time Student, 5330 Administration of Medical Emergency Care. And we adjourned at 6:30, and if anybody has anything to add to those policies, please feel free to contact Kathy, Lena, or Lucas, or Mandy with any updates that you'd like to see in those policies. Moving on, new business. Grand Marsh Elementary property. Tom.
Yes, thank you. I've had 3 serious inquiries regarding the sale of the Grand Marsh Elementary building, and I'm looking for some conversation and direction this evening. I'm not necessarily looking for a vote because we don't have a process in place, but ultimately I'm going to be looking for some direction regarding the sale of Grand Marsh Elementary building. And I would like to create a process that I've utilized to sell buildings, school buildings in the past, that is a bid process, not involving a realtor, and a bid process where you have the opportunity as a school board to both consider the asking price or the bidded price from the interested parties, as well as the intended use of the building into the future. As part of that, I would also recommend that we extend as long as possible, 10 to 25 years, that the building not be used for a 4K through 12th grade educational facility, therefore creating competition within our district from a private school.
What does the board wish to do?
Question for Tom, is there any short-term reason that we would need this school?
And that is a question. I want this. I really wanted the facility and future use of our future configuration of our district conversation, community conversation, to occur before we had serious inquiries about the building. If we were to use that building, it would require transportation, and we'd have staff persons then that would have to be commuting inside the instructional day back and forth between Friendship and Grand Marsh. So that's a long answer that for I don't really know right now. I was not anticipating, we weren't soliciting any of these inquiries about the building at all. They just happened to occur within the last month.
I guess what we could do, as long as we've got 3 people already interested, we could continue down this path, because we don't have to accept any of them, correct?
Correct.
I mean, we can continue down this path and see what the price is and what they plan on using it. I guess I love what happened out at Russia Cree. I'm not too happy about what happened at Castle Rock. So, I mean, I think we have a stake in that also to preserve that for the community of Grand Marsh also. Go ahead.
So, help me understand, isn't there a large chunk of land that we kind of developed as a trail
We
system?
can't hear you.
Isn't there a large chunk of land on the back of that? We
80
developed?
acres is on the back of that. That would be separate.
Is it gonna stay, is it gonna stay separate then from the sale and like?
That's what I was told so far, yes.
And I guess my question, as far as this process goes, are we looking at potentially a long-term plan for that property of giving it to Grand Marsh as a public park, or, you know, I don't know. If we're thinking about a long-term plan for this property.
What, Tom?
We can't hear what Mr. Presley's saying.
So the piece of property that's on the back, the 8 acres, is part of the plan to decide what we're going to do with that piece of property? Or are we going to look at potentially donating it to Grand Marsh as a public park? Or, I mean, is that part of the conversation too?
Right now, that 80-acre parcel, and Mrs. McManus, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if we verified through a title search whether those properties are separate entities or not. And right now, that acreage behind Grand Marsh Elementary School contains a Lewis and Clark replica trail, and we just started to try to rehab that last summer, and we're going to do more work on that this fall. So I'd like to maintain that, if possible, if those parcels are separate, maintain that as a instructional space for our students and a community space for the area.
I guess just a follow-up question, is that landlocked or is?
No,
No.
there's roads bordered.
Is there,
along.
okay, I don't know.
Yeah. It goes from, if you ever go down 5th Avenue, you see the start of that, and 6th Avenue, and then the road behind it is what?
Well, it's north edge of Dyke.
Right, Dyke.
East.
And then you go all the way down to the next road. We own that whole 80 all the way that borders that road. Dyke.
Okay.
So as part of this process, we'd be working with attorneys or a title company to do a title search, and Boardman and Clark to create this process. But this is the process I've used to sell 2 buildings in my previous district.
So the board wishes to continue on this quest? Go ahead, Lucas.
I was just going to ask, what is the cost of owning Grand Marsh for us today?
We're keeping it in an unoccupied heat mode. We are having to keep the building heated. We're cutting the grass. I don't have an estimate. I can try to bring an estimate in March if you'd like me to do that.
Lucas, I could maybe help with that a little bit. The last time when we closed the other schools, we thought the annual upkeep was between $10,000 and $12,000. It's between the constant heat, the lawn mowing, the snow plowing, and just general maintenance was right around that $10,000 mark a year. If that helps you at all, or we could have Tom do a little bit more study on that.
No, that's good. I think we should just be mindful of that and making our decision. The longer we hold on to this and keep it empty, the more money we're spending for no reason. So,
I think we should proceed with this plan and see where it takes us.
I see a lot of head nodding, so Tom, I think that's your green light to go ahead and continue on this process. And like we said before, we could always say no at the end if we don't like what we hear or what we see or the cost.
Okay, so I'll bring a process forward and I'll try to get some estimates for Lucas regarding costs, just to try to get a better handle on that. I don't know the answer, so I'd like to know as well.
So I'm assuming, after your comment about the 10 to 20 years, that none of these serious inquiries had anything to do with setting up another school.
If they did, it would be a restriction within the legal documentation. So no, they did not specifically state starting in K-12 educational entity or for K-12 educational entity.
Is there any-
In my previous district, I tried to put her 19